All right, I think we've got a quorum now, so we'll call the common council, well, no, not the common council, the committee of the whole meeting. Sorry, wrong agenda. Committee of the whole meeting for August 8th, 2023 to order. Please call the roll.
Alderman Stralchek?
Here.
Alderman Talaco? Here. Alderman Meyer? Here. Alderman Hancher?
Here.
Alderman Bach?
Here.
Alderman Parrish?
Here.
Alderman Schneider?
Here.
Alderman Gebhardt?
Here.
Mayor Nurbin?
Here. Next up, we have approval of the meeting minutes from July 21st, and there's a amendment to the minutes sitting in front of you. Just expanded the discussion, actually recorded a bit of the discussion we had on the potential residential uses in the existing central area where the business park is now, just so that's reflected in the minutes.
Move approval as amended.
Motion and a second. Any other comments or corrections? Alderman Gephardt.
I'm assuming that's an approval based on the amendment?
Approval as amended. I would assume so, yes. Okay, thanks for that clarification. Good question. Hearing no further comments or questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the minutes are approved. First up, we have Resolution 4059, a resolution amending the City of Mequon financial policies to include a policy statement number 18 regarding payment card acceptance. Director Engraff will give us an overview.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. We'll get started. So accepting payment cards at City Hall has been a long time coming. I inherited the project a couple of years ago, or almost a couple of years ago. So I'm pleased to share that we're in a good position, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to implement by or before the end of the year. So if we just run through the agenda, we'll kind of give you a picture of how we currently accept payment cards. We conducted an internal survey, so we'll share those results, as well as a couple of logistical items. And then we'll go through our technology selection process. And then we'll walk through a few items from the draft financial policy, which we're seeking approval for this evening. And then we'll address the fiscal impact and any questions that you may have. So if we take a look at how we currently accept payment cards, we do for online utility payments, brush permits, as well as property taxes. We also do point of sale at the pool via Square. And as you can see, we have all different vendors for each solution. The only, I guess, difference I would say between these four different revenue categories is that for the pool, the city absorbs those fees. So it's just under $2,000. This is the fourth pool season that we've been doing that. Otherwise, all the fees are being charged back to the customer. One other thing that I'd like to point out that we currently do is for utility payments, we do offer automatic ACH. At no cost to the customer and no cost to the city. In fact, we just did a customer campaign about a month or two ago that coincided with the Q2 utility bills, in which we educated customers regarding their different payment options, and we also asked for their current contact information, so email addresses, phone numbers. And we're pleased to report that it was a great success. We estimate that we received about a 50% response rate. Many of those paying in check form have converted or will be converting to automatic ACH, and then many provided us with their contact information so that we can better serve them. So we are very excited about that. Okay, moving on to the survey results. So this was, so we first, since I've been with the city, we first brought the topic to Finance Personnel Committee. That was last fall. And so we kind of gave a pulse check on where we were, where we had left off, or where my predecessor had left off, and we received some feedback. And one of the items was, okay, what do other municipalities do? So we surveyed, and Marie took the initiative on this one, surveyed all of Ozaki County, and then also a few other areas outside of Ozaki County due to relationships that we have. And so there were 13 municipalities that we received information from. And so, there were a number of pages contained in the packet, but we're just going to condense it down to some of the most relevant things that we got from the survey. So one of 13 communities does not accept payment cards in any way, shape, or form for any type of revenue. 3 of the communities don't accept payments at City Hall. So we're kind of we're in the minority with that 1 and that 3, and that we don't accept payments at City Hall, although we do accept other form for like the utility payments online and the brush permits as well as property taxes. We learned that most municipalities are charging the majority of fees back to the customer. And most municipalities have more than one credit card processor. They all charge different fees and offer different services. So many have more than one card processor. The larger communities utilize Tyler Munis as their financial system. Tyler is a robust system with a lot of functionality and can handle large volumes of transactions. And of those 3 communities, 2 of them use Tyler Payments for a fully integrated payment solution. Moving on to a couple of the logistical items. One is the location. So we currently have a cash register at City Hall within the finance department. And then we also have one at the safety building within the police department. And then we do not have a cash register at the Public Works building, but we do receive in payments and write out manual receipts, and then that paperwork is brought over to the finance department to process throughout the week. But we are looking to better serve customers and thought that we should have a credit card terminal at the Public Works building. So we're looking at 3 locations to have the capability to accept payment cards. And then moving to fees, this was one area where we had some feedback from the committee as well, in that the transactional fees should be charged back to the customer. That was one theme that came from that, which is consistent with the survey results. Also, there was a thought that, if the city is covering something, it shouldn't be benefited by few, it should be most or all. And then we have the one-time setup fees for the process and the technology, as well as the annual maintenance associated with that. So we have built into the policy that the city would absorb those fees. Moving on to the technology selection process. This too was a feedback that we received last fall. We went to the FMP discussion with a Tyler Munis quote, and it was limited to Tyler Munis. So we wanted to look outside of that. So it was, okay, we bid everything else throughout the city. We need to do the same here for this process. And so the baseline requirement for us was that we find a technology that is integrated. We didn't want to have 2 different systems, not talking to each other, requiring a lot of manual intervention when we have limited resources and staff. And in today's day and age, we're trying to do things more efficiently. And so we started with 3 of the payment solutions or processors that we're already currently using. The Govolution, the Point and Pay, and Square, but quickly became aware that they're not going to integrate with Tyler Munis. And then Express Bill Pay, as well as Global Payments Integrated, we thought them to be viable third-party options. However, we learned after talking to Tyler that Global Payments Integrated is really the only option in terms of a third party that they would work with. They've offered other third parties in the past, but had a lot of issues with them. So, but then after talking to Global Payments Integrated, they are only compatible with older versions of Munis. So, and if council recalls, we just We just upgraded at the end of last year several versions, so we're now on a 2021 version, so it's not compatible with the version we're on. So Tyler Payments is really the only option for a fully integrated solution. Okay, moving on to the financial policy, the draft that you have in your packet and that we're seeking approval on this evening. So it covers a number of topics, including the costs associated with accepting payment cards, how to recording the transactions, how to refund a customer, and handling disputes. But I would say, the core of the financial policy and the most important piece is the PCI compliance, the payment card industry compliance, where we need to protect the cardholder data. So there are 12 universally accepted requirements established by the major credit card companies a number of years ago, probably 20 years ago, for those who store, accept, transmit credit card information or payment card information. And so as long as we're working with a compliant credit card processor, we're already largely in compliance with those 12 requirements. So that greatly reduces our exposure. But also there are some things built into the financial policy that we're seeking approval for that I think further minimizes our risk or exposure, which includes, we're not storing credit card information. We won't be writing it down. We won't be accepting payments over the phone. So I think all those things further minimize our risk of, And so we learned that it's going to be a 3-month implementation at a very minimum. And we identified, okay, we may have some lagging PCI items that need to be addressed. The one that comes to mind is just establishing an information security policy. Otherwise, we're in a pretty good place, but we will. The plan is to work concurrently to implement the process as well as address those PCI items. But we will not be moving forward until we have those things addressed. But we don't also want to lose any time, so we want to get working on both of those things. Okay, getting to the end here, the fiscal impact. So good news is we already have $5,000 built into the budget. And that was factoring in potential training or implementation costs, but we aren't going to have any of that with Tyler Payments. So it's really the non-recurring setup costs for each of the 3 devices for about a total of $1,250, and then the cost of maintaining those devices, which is about an annual cost of $540. And then, of course, the transactional fee, we're recommending that it goes to the customer. And so, I would say that this plan isn't necessarily perfect to have so many different credit card processors, but we're trying to focus on filling the gap, and the gap being that we don't accept credit cards in person at City Hall, at DPW, at the Public Works Building. And so, it'll probably make sense down the road to revisit this process, to potentially consolidate, to consider absorbing some of the fees, especially if we start transacting more business online, with the business licenses module that's going to be implemented, the land management system. And so, ultimately, we'd love just to get this approved so that we can keep the momentum going and hopefully by the end of the year have it in place so that we can start the year being able to accept credit cards. Otherwise, I think it will probably, due to other demands and high priority projects, including the budget and the tax season, tax collection season, and year end and audit and all those good things, it probably would get pushed to next summer to implement. So that's all that I had prepared. We welcome any questions that you might have.
Thank you. And I saw a question from Alderwoman Schneider.
I just have a quick question. The IVR fee is what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interactive voice response. So that is a phone payment option. We would not be accepting, so if you call into City Hall, the finance department, we won't take those payments over the phone, but it is a service that we can offer and that we would recommend offering to customers if they do want to go that route. So it's an automated, and there's no risk to us. We won't be writing down credit card information or anything like that. But we would recommend that we turn that service on to our customers.
And also, what proportion of payments are currently made in person as opposed to online? Just ballpark.
Do you want to turn on your mic?
So, for utility, 2244 was the number of transactions for 2022. I'd say we send out almost 10,000 bills per quarter. So, 2,200 for the year, and there's about 40,000 bills. That's a pretty low percentage currently.
Alderman Parrish.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Director Engroff. Nice job. This is exactly the process to come to the right conclusion. I don't know why we wouldn't approve this tonight. I know Alderman Bushy would be very happy we were proceeding with this. This was his last parting wish that we would do this right away, and so he'll be happy. My only requests are just to make sure that the dog and pet licenses, this whole system will flow. Like, make sure we're designing that up front for like brush permits and dog and pet licenses. And then the final piece is, per our strategic plan, is essentially event management through the Parks Board so that we can rent out our parks more efficiently online. So all this has to connect and flow and people be able to pay online. So just as you're designing this, it's very complex, and we appreciate that you're on top of it. But those are things to factor in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alderman Bach.
Just a tangential question on the, since everybody has to pay taxes, is there plans to do ACH transactions, via the web for taxes, or can you do that? I know in some municipalities you can do that, you've been able to do that. Is that something that we're working on or thinking about?
I don't know that it has ever been considered in the past, but certainly something to consider and look into. We'll take note of that.
Yeah, I remember because I pay my father-in-law's taxes in Wauwatosa, and it's really easy to do. You just go online and do an ACH transaction, and it's done in 5 minutes. So,
Okay.
As you're looking at it, no pressure.
Sure.
Certainly a good comment. Any way we can make it easier for folks to interact with us at the city, save a trip into the city hall, that's benefit to everyone. Alderman Meyer.
Not using it at the pool, is that just an infrastructure issue, or not be, you're going to be using Square at the pool,
Using Square at the pool,
but
right.
not incorporating it with
Not
Tyler.
incorporating it with Tyler payments. No, it's
Is that an infrastructure issue for that?
right.
or-
I mean, we would have to get a register, a card reader out there. The process works. We don't feel as though we need the detail behind that. It's kind of a one and done transaction. Whereas, here at City Hall, it's often reoccurring business, and we might need to refund them. But yeah, we think the process works, and yes, it is partially an infrastructure. So we're trying to keep it simple for now, anyway. Yeah, short season as well.
Any other questions or comments? I'm happy this is progressing. We've all wanted it for a couple years. I know we've been busy, but if we've got a gap of staff availability now, I think we should move forward and keep the momentum going, just like you asked for. I guess we do need a formal recommendation for council so we can vote on it again in the half an hour. Any further questions? Otherwise, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Do we need a motion?
Move
I would
approval.
move second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Now the same question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That moves on to the council. Next is a discussion on the Southern Ozaki Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department. The chief's going to give us an update on how things are going so far this year.
So I was asked to talk about a few things tonight. So we'll talk about operations, administration, and finances in the 14 minutes I have left. So first of all, as we sit today, 2023, we have, I blacked out, we have 12 full-time people. We have 7 firefighter paramedics, 3 battalion chiefs, a deputy chief, and a chief. The ones you can't see, the blacked out positions, those are the full-time people. Every day we try to staff 7 people, 4 on the west side, 3 on the east side. So for the very first column there's a battalion chief, 3 full-time people, and 3 paid on call. On the next shift, you have the battalion chief, 2 full-time people, POP position, which is a part-time paramedic, and then 3 POCs. And that's where we're at. That one of those POP positions is actually Josh Lip, who's a gentleman that was injured back just before Christmas on that accident on the freeway. He still has not returned to work, but we have a position there if he comes back someday. And the other POP position, we interviewed 5 people earlier this year to hire. We hired 2 people, and the other 3 people that we offered a job to, I'll turn it down. So we're just continuing with putting the POP in that position for the rest of the year. Back in January, the SOFD board approved a hiring process for full-time and paid-on-call people. With that, we hired our battalion chief, which had been vacant since October. We hired the 2 full-time firefighter paramedics I talked about, and 12 new paid-on-calls. And what's significant about that is all 12 of them are actually live in the city. I think 5 are from Concordia students, but that's a big deal for us that we got community members. So Rick Lemke, we made him the battalion chief back in May, and Wesley Reimer, who was a paid-on-call in Mequon, who was a paramedic, we hired him as a full-time firefighter paramedic, and Garrett Gross was a volunteer in Thiensville, and we made him a full-time firefighter paramedic. So we grabbed people from each of the 2 communities. This here, our schedule, this year in 23, we've only had 1% of our shifts unfilled, which comes out to about 470 hours for the year. Last year, we had 16% unfilled, and if you've been playing along for a long time, in 2021, we were at about 24% was unfilled. And most of the filled shifts in 2022 was because we combined the 2 departments in July. We started operating together, so we were able to come up with that 16%. So the 1% doesn't come without a price, though. We've had to use overtime to fill some of the shifts, usually on weekends. But it's nice to have some career people to choose from to get them to fill the shifts. So that's been very helpful to us. Back in January 1st, Ozaki County took over dispatch for us. It was seamless as far as the fire department goes. We had to change some of our workflow in as much as Ozaki County now does dispatching for all 8 fire departments, except for Cedarburg during the day. So the dispatchers only want to do things one way, so we had to change some of the things we did to make it all work out, but it's working well. In 2023, as part of the IGA, we're supposed to work on our fleet consolidation. We've done that. We know what we want. We know what we want to get rid of. We sold 2 staff vehicles, a boat, a tanker truck we sold for $48,000, and in 1989 it was $84,000. So if somebody would have had forethought, we would have bought 2 of them back in 1989. And currently for sale, we have 1 fire engine and 1 ladder truck, which is on like a broker website for people who are looking for that kind of equipment. If they don't sell, then we'll put them on the auction site. Probably get much less for them there, but we have high hopes that it'll work out. Administration, the IGA, about 2 months into the Southern Ozaki Fire Department, the administrator realized that I did not have a direct report, so he wanted to make that right. So now I report directly to the fire chief reports directly to the city administrator in Mequon. And tonight you're gonna vote on increasing the board for the SOFD from 5 members to 7 members. We have a grievance policy for anyone who feels that they've been aggrieved. We have just recently some of the full-time members petitioned to have a union. The SOFD board met and they said if they want a union, that's fine, but we want everybody in, the full-time people and the paid-on-call, because we don't want a division between the 2 groups. So that's still ongoing. There'll probably be a hearing to see what's going to happen. We have pretty good insight that that they'll have to take everyone if they want to do it. And then we'll deal with it, whatever happens. Mequon is our fiscal agent for the Southern Ozaki Fire Department for payroll processing. We at the fire department still collect all the pay sheets. We go through our database, figure out who worked how many hours, doing what training, coming for calls, and we send an Excel spreadsheet to Mequon, and they cut us the checks. We still, at Southern Ozaki, we still take care of accounts payable and accounts receivable through Quicken for small businesses. We do our onboarding and HR. Justin here has been a real help with our HR stuff, and Julia still helps us out with our onboarding when we need it. Something else that happened, in 2022, we applied, Mequon and Thiensville both applied for something called the Flex Grant with ARPA funds from the state. We were awarded between the two communities $200,000. So we've been busy, first we gave the $200,000, then they called us and said, you can't have it because you're no longer Mequon and Thiensville. We argued with them and they said, okay, you can have the money. So in busy spending the money, we had to buy a narcotic storage vault system and tracking software, because if the DEA comes in, you have to tell them where all your narcotics are. We had a system, but it was old and very expensive. We bought 2 Zoll cardiac monitor defibrillators, which are about $45,000 a piece. Mequon and Thiensville use different equipment, so now we're all the same. We bought some durable medical supplies. We have some wireless dispatching terminals that we're in progress of putting into the vehicles, which will eliminate the need for us and other communities to talk so much on the radio. You can just push a button and that will send whatever it does to dispatch, and more of our records will be electronic. So again, less work for the county and better for us, because we'll get real-time information if they dispatch or they update the information on the call. We bought a power load cot, which is the thing you put the patient on. The biggest cause of injuries in a fire service are back injuries, and it's usually from lifting. And EMTs and paramedics, their biggest workers' comp claim is on back injuries. So the power load cot, not only does it put the patient on it, lift it up, it also like sucks it in the machine into the back of the ambulance. It's got like a tail hook on it, pulls it right in, so you don't have to do any lifting. And we spent some money on our jackets, our PPE. Our mission, vision, and values in March, the board wanted the SOFD to come up with a new mission, vision, and values. Lynn Streeter, you may remember from the Future of Our Fire Department, helped us out. We met with the membership in May at the firehouse. We met in the basement. We had 32 people. We voted on words and gave her ideas, and, well, that worked out really well. Then we went out and interviewed some stakeholders, went and talked to other fire departments, talked to the hospital, care facilities. We talked to the police departments, and then we met with the membership again in July to let them know what we came up with. We took the mission, vision, and values to the board meeting in July, and they said good. Lynn was going to refine it some more. We've done that, and now we hope to have a final product for the SOFD board in September. Under finances, it's a $3.2 million budget. 57% of it comes in by revenue. We had a slow start through our billing process with a few snafus. Medicare isn't always quick to start up. It was nice having Lynn Streeter around. She used to do billing for hospitals or startup hospitals, so she kind of let us in on the process. We didn't send our first ambulance bill out until June 1st. And we got our first receipt on July 24th, and since July 24th, we've come up with $86,000. Now, 57% of 3.2 million is about 1.8. So we have a long way to go. However, 300,000 should come from the county and ARPA funding. I'll talk about that in a minute. 200,000 was for our 2% dues, and the rest, most of that's going to be ambulance revenue. Our expenses for 23, because we knew revenue was going to be slow, unless it keeps you breathing or stops you from bleeding, we haven't bought anything. We tried to minimize our expenses because we didn't know how long this was going to last. Cedarburg Fire Department wanted to start a paramedic program, so they signed an agreement with us whereby their paramedics would operate under our license until they hire more people and they find someone to run their program. It's about a 3-year agreement. So every year that $80,000 was this extra revenue that we weren't planning on for the next 3 years while they get their program up and running, or they may like us so much they may stay with us. The county had some ARPA funding that they offered up for hiring people. We've taken advantage of that. We just have not seen the money yet. The mayor and I attended a meeting back in July where they were talking about it. And our budget for 2024 is underway and will be done by September 13th. I'm done. 3 minutes left. How'd I do?
Thanks for catching us up. Any questions from the committee? As a good update, some of us are more familiar with it than others from also serving on that board and commission, but it's good to get the whole council here an update and hear how things are going. Any questions for the chief? Alderman Parrish?
Hey, Chief, welcome to the meeting.
I miss you.
Yeah, you too. Good report. Just wanted to congratulate you. 99% of the hours filled is exactly what the Common Council was hoping for with our investment and increasing, permanent on-call people or permanent staff people, while maintaining a commitment to the volunteer fire force as well. In the prior meeting here, we talked about the billings kind of lagging just because of the late start and the changeover, and it sounds like we're 75%, I guess, behind what we would hope for, which, eventually we'll get it. I guess I'm just thinking of it in terms of the budget cycle. So do you think the $1 million plus will be collected this budget cycle, or will we have to plug it until the money does come in?
I think we will. There's always about a 3-month lag, so whatever ambulance transport we do in October, November, December, probably wouldn't be received until 24. But I believe everything else from January 1st should start coming in before the end of the year.
So that could mean there's a 3-month shortfall then in this year's budget,
Again,
correct?
we've kept expenses way low, and I think we're going to make it. I have high hopes that our revenue, we took what we made in 21, what we projected we were going to make in 22 from both Mequon and Thiensville, combined them, sprinkle a little fairy dust on it, hoping it would get a little bigger, and that was our number, and I think we're going to make it.
It's probably also worthy to note that we've been measuring response time data, and we've made improvements to response times. We discussed that at the last meeting, and it's been especially true for Thiensville, which I know was a concern because we're typically responding from Mequon, not the fire hall in Thiensville. But thanks to having more people around, we're actually responding quicker in most instances. So it's true for both communities, but it's reassuring to our friends in Thiensville who are our partners in this endeavor. And then I think the chief was a little modest. He mentioned the stakeholder feedback we got as part of the mission, vision, and values exercise. That feedback was extremely complimentary and reassured us that we're not only doing the right things, but we're doing them the right way, and the community highly regards the institution. Both institutions and now the combined institution of SOFD. So that was pleasing to see as well. Any further questions? Seeing none. Thanks, Chief. We appreciate the update. Next, we're on to informational items. The Committee of the Whole Planning Calendar, which you should have in front of you. So we can see where we're at today on August 8th. Next month we can expect updates on sign code, everyone's favorite topic, and a water utility master plan, which has also been an item of interest over the last couple of years. And then you can follow the plan out into the future just to give us an idea of what's coming down the pike. Any feedback from the committee on any of those future topic items to discuss, or those what you want to see? Go
Mayor,
ahead.
I will just point out, originally on the calendar that appeared in last month's packet, there was scheduled to be an update on the expansion of the Lemke Park Pavilion for this evening. In conversations with the Director of Public Works, a decision was made at the staff level to hold off on that presentation tonight, pending the availability of further updated drawings from the architect hired by the city. So we would anticipate that if we have time in the September or October Committee of the Whole meetings, we may be coming back with an update to follow through on that original intent. So I just wanted to make that point clear here this evening. Obviously, we discussed credit cards and got an update on the Southern Ozaki Fire and EMS Department as originally scheduled. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other feedback on the preview of coming attractions? If not, does that bring us to our future policy items and for discussion and consideration that dovetails right in with the future work plan for this committee? Anything from anyone that we want to bring up at this time?
And just to reiterate how this process was envisioned when I spoke before you last in April, certainly there's an opportunity for any member of the council as a member of the committee of the whole to request or calendar a certain policy discussion or topic during this time, this designated time before the regular common council meetings on a monthly basis. So it can be as easy as an email, a telephone conversation, an in-person conversation, and if that makes its way to my office, eventually it will appear on one of these calendar documents that we're planning to include monthly in the committee of the whole packet. At some point, if a topic is identified by a particular council member, there may be some discussion at this level as to whether or not that rises to actually appearing on an agenda and energizing staff to do the necessary work in order to have a formal presentation before this group. But this is an open calendar, an open process, and if there's a brainstorm or a mindset on the part of any one committee member to bring something forward for further discussion, that can happen at any time.
Seeing no takers tonight, so we'll keep that in mind, though. We're trying to make this as a way to provide feedback and have discussion so we can figure out how to direct staff more effectively in the future. So we'll try doing things a little different way and see how it works. With no other comments, is there a motion
Move
to
to
adjourn?
adjourn.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now